Thank you very much for that opening. Proto is a nickel company. It's great to be here tonight. Thank you very much to Investorium for this fresh new approach to presentations. I've just come back from the nickel conference, and yeah, it's great to have a new format. That's just the disclaimer. If it doesn't mention Greece, it probably should. And yes, don't let the wine or sassy dolls affect your thinking. Now, essentially, Proto is a nickel company. We are in nickel laterite and nickel sulphide. We have a technology that we're working on at the moment for nickel laterite. As mentioned, we have our flagship project just outside of Beaconsfield in Tasmania. That's a nickel laterite surface ore body. We're listed on the Australian Stock Exchange, ASX code PRW, around 450 million shares on issue, and approximately a $15 million market cap. We've got a five-person board. There's myself as Managing Director, jointly with Lia Darby. Our chairman is Ian Campbell, the former Federal Environment Minister under the Howard government. We also have the former Chief of the Australian Defence Reserves, Greg Mellick, QC, and also Kay Phillip, a geophysicist. All right, now, some of you would know quite a bit about nickel. About 1.5 million tonnes a year get sold in a variety of products. We believe it's a very good market to be based in. It's a high-value mineral, and a lot of the nickel market is still open because nickel laterite has traditionally caused a lot of problems in terms of processing. We believe we've got a way around that, and I'm going to say a lot about that later on. But the international market in nickel, we believe, is a very strong one to be getting into. Now, the uses of nickel. Obviously, 2/3 goes into stainless steel, as most of you would know, but it's also used in jet engines because it is so strong and it can withstand a lot of heat, force, corrosion. It really is a fantastic specialty metal, also for weaponry, coinage, batteries. It has a variety of uses. It's not easy to substitute, and approximately has 3,000 alloys for about 250,000 different products. So it's a great metal to be involved in. All right, well, 40% of the world's nickel is in sulphide ore bodies, but they provide about 60% of production. The majority of nickel is in laterite, which has been difficult to process, and it provides about 40% of production. So you will see laterite production go up, sulphide production come down, because laterite ore bodies traditionally are much larger than sulphide ore bodies. Laterite is on the surface, it's much easier to mine, and sulphide you have to find, obviously, before you get to the point of worrying about digging it up. Okay, now our production and growth strategy is essentially to acquire large laterites. We're working on that at the moment. We're looking globally for nickel laterite projects. Essentially, we're looking to close some transactions in the Northern Hemisphere, where there's a great deal of laterite opportunities that are not normally thought about. The majority of the world's laterite is in Indonesia, South America, and obviously Australia. So we're looking in all of those jurisdictions. However, we are working on nickel sulphide as well. We're exploring in the Northern Territory and WA, and obviously we're looking to put our Barnes Hill project into production to derive earnings from that towards the end of next year. So within the next 12 to 18 months, we're looking to obtain cash flow from that project to sustain the rest of the company's activities. Okay. Essentially where we're up to at the moment on Barnes Hill is we have our mining licence granted now. We have Caterpillar Finance from Zurich providing the debt finance for Barnes Hill and also the equipment supply. We've signed up all of that in the past 4 months, and also we've just lodged our development application with the Tasmanian government. So the Barnes Hill project, which I'll say more about in a moment, is at a high state of development in terms of getting it ready for building the mine and the production facilities when we have approval to do that. All right, the technology. Now, a lot of you would know that nickel laterite has been processed with high pressure acid leach, which is very costly capex wise and opex wise. We don't believe that that is the right way to process it. It's certainly one way and it is effective, but it is expensive. Essentially what we're looking to do is use a low capex, low opex atmospheric leach facility, so no high pressure or high temperature in treatment of the ore. You simply dig it up, whack it in a vat leach facility, and then you take that mixed metal sulfate solution and you separate it using electricity into a mixture of nickel, cobalt, your payable metals, your main payable metals, but then you take the iron and the magnesium as well, which is in a sulfate. You split that up into a saleable iron and magnesium product, and you regenerate your acid. And that way you're cutting down your tailings dam size, no need for limestone. You're regenerating 80 to 90% of your acid. You're producing a saleable iron product and a saleable magnesium product instead of spending money to store it. And that has a dramatic effect on the bottom line. And that essentially is the key behind the technology. In some ways, it's a matter of avoiding high capex and high opex costs that have defeated other players. And we certainly believe that an atmospheric leach facility is the best way to go, unless you have a very difficult ore that requires higher temperature and a higher pressure. Okay. Now, Barrier Bay Technology Company is the company that houses the intellectual property that we're working on at the moment, and the first incarnation of it will be our Barnes Hill project. Essentially, that will allow us, as I say, to produce not just the nickel saleable product, but cobalt, iron, magnesium as well. So we're looking for a state of play whereby, the current nickel price is about $19,000 a tonne, about $18,700, and we're looking to produce nickel metal for under $10,000 a tonne. So that will allow us to be firewalled even against a sporadic nickel price, as of course cyclical reality affects that metal price. Now, Barnes Hill itself. Barnes Hill is about 10 kilometres from the deep water port of Bell Bay. It's about 15 kilometres from the Bell Bay power station. We have a fly-through, actually, if you want to get onto that here. Because that, I think, shows the logistical favourability of this project very, very well. I'd say we're probably the best located mining project in the world, being so close to port and power. We're only 200 metres from a sealed road. We have the Beaconsfield township 3 kilometres away. It's a mining township. They love mining. They've been doing it for 150 years. We're a surface mine, no blasting, so we'll fit into the community quite nicely. And it's a very heavily disturbed area. It's not pristine wilderness. It's an old mine site, one of Australia's first iron ore mines, and also a chromite operation from the 70s as well. We will actually tidy up the area quite considerably as part of our rehabilitation of the site. As I say, it's heavily disturbed. There's quite a few car bodies there, an upturned bus and a Mr. Whippy van, which I presume the owners didn't drive there. So we're not dealing with an area with significant environmental sensitivity. Where there is, obviously we're going to mine around that, and we've contracted to buy some offset ground as well, so that we can allay any significant or any real effect to the local environment. Now, I think it's really the logistics that make this project fly. There's an iron ore cap as well, which we'll look to dig through, and rather than set that to one side, we'll look to sell that as well. The BHP Temco iron ore smelters, only 35 kilometres away via road, and smaller operations to the south of us already supply that BHP iron ore facility. So once again, you've got a byproduct there with a potential customer extremely close. If not, you've got a deep water port 25 kilometres closer, and you can ship that out, which we may look to do once concentrating up. So just a fantastic story from the point of view of logistics. And there's a great deal you can do with mines, even in sort of remote areas. But obviously, we're extremely pleased with the proximity of Barnes Hill to people, power, port, potential customers. It's just a fantastic, fantastic place to be. All right. Exploration is a very important part of what we're looking to do at Proto, as well as having our nickel laterite and technology focus in terms of Barnes Hill and in terms of the acquisitions that we're looking to make. Exploration is still a fantastic area of upside for small Australian companies like ourselves. Now, we're in the Northern Territory and in Western Australia with our exploration properties. We did have a gold property at Tibooburra, the old Albert Goldfield, but we joint ventured that out and took scrip in a company, and their team's having a great deal of success with that, so we're very pleased about that. But at the moment, we're focusing in on Western Australia and the Northern Territory. Now, in the Northern Territory, we're looking for Norilsk-style mineralisations in the Kalkarinji Continental Flood Basalt Complex. I won't go into too much detail here, but essentially the Kalkarinji CFBC is the only other one outside of the Norilsk Talnak, which is continuously crustally contaminated. So we believe that there's a strong geochemical link between the Norilsk Talnak in Russia and what we have in the Northern Territory. Obviously, it's high risk, high reward, but we believe that's an essential part of small mining companies in Australia. Obviously, we have a mixed portfolio in terms of Barnes Hill, so that we're not just exposing shareholders to exploration. In WA, we're in the Sandfire region, in the Dulgunna area. We looked at that for quite a while after Sandfire had their initial discovery, and it was thought that that discovery only pertained to a small part of the regional locale. But we did quite a lot of work researching it, not just with geological assistance, but we also got some economic historians to assist us as well. And we found that actually the region was much larger than we thought, and we pegged a great deal of ground in the Ureda Basin. And about 3 weeks ago, Proto Resources quite publicly announced their success in the Ureda Basin, which is actually outside some of the rocks that Sandfire have, but from an age point of view and a geochemical point of view, they're very, very similar. So what we're looking to do here, obviously nickel's very important to us, but we're looking to diversify as well through exploration. We are talking to several companies about joint ventures on the 5 projects that we have there. 2 of them are now granted exploration licenses, and the other 3 are still under application, so they're new, they've got a long way to run, and we've already started work looking at those projects. Now, I think nickel is a great commodity to be in. As I say, very difficult to substitute. We believe it has a significant future as more better quality products are used worldwide, as essentially more consumers come on stream out of developing economies. Also, it's not a very well-developed market because whilst you have the sulphide producers and you have some larger nickel laterites coming on production with HPAL, especially next year, 60% of the world's nickel is in laterite, and it's still an open game to get it right. It's not easy, but it's not as hard as the rest of the competition believes, and that's where our investment proposition mainly lies. Our technology, the Barnes Hill project, which is in joint venture with MFC, who have to finance it into production and do all of the requisite feasibility studies, which are currently underway. That's the main part of our investment proposition in terms of nickel, the technology and Barnes Hill. But we are looking at other minerals as well, like copper, which are, I suppose, a bit more liquid in terms of their market, so that we have polymetallic risk mitigation. That's a very significant part of what we're looking to do in the future. Also, our Northern Territory exploration essentially has the potential to find copper and platinum group elements as well, which is a fantastic mix of precious metals and base metals. All right, well look, I've tried to keep it quite quick this evening. Thank you very much for your attention, and please, any questions?
Well, we'll do that. There we go. Andrew Mortimer.